Welcome, everybody, to the Huddle, KGA 9's streaming weekly sports talk show. I'm Jason Barr, joined as always by Pat Parris in what has been a very eventful week and a half for University of Arizona Athletics. Pat, good afternoon. How are you today?
Yeah, just one day of not having anything happen would be nice. Maybe today's that day.
Yeah, well, we had something good happen today, actually, with a future Arizona basketball player, Carter Bryant, being named a McDonald's All-American. But, of course, the big story, Arizona Athletics parting ways with Dave Heeke yesterday. He's going to stay on until February 2nd. And then Mike Candrea will be the interim athletic director in the meantime. And Arizona will look to find somebody else. Pat, I was taken a little off guard by this just because, as we take a look at here, just a week ago, he's introducing Brent Brennan as the new Arizona football coach. I don't think anybody thought that a week later Dave Heeke would not be here. But yet at the same time, there are a lot of rumblings of things going on in the athletic department about finances.
Yeah, and I did a quick little survey of a few people I'm gotten acquainted with over the years that are former Wildcat players on various sports, and just kind of texted them real quick. Were you surprised? They were all shocked. I was surprised too. I think the sentiment really is, I was surprised that it happened, but under the circumstances of the finances of the department and of the university, maybe we shouldn't have been so surprised. I think it was just the timing. It was odd in the sense that just a few days earlier, he was sitting there. You saw the video moments ago of him introducing Brent Brennan. Now he's out. And I think what really points to is what we're going to find out on Thursday, and that's finances will be discussed at the Board of Regents meeting at Arizona State. The U of A finances will be discussed there. And I think we will know what the red flags were that led to the departure of Dave Heeke.
Okay, so that leads to a new feature here on the Huddle for 2024. We are going to have a weekly poll to make it more interactive so we can connect with you and vice versa. And here it is. It's what has been the biggest U of A sports surprise in the last 10 days, right? So you can go ahead and vote on our website. On kgo9.com. There's a section there. If you just want to write it in the comments here, that's fine too. The comments would be for the live show. You can vote all throughout the week. Number one would be Jedd Fisch leaving. Number two would be U of A parting ways with Dave Heeke. And number three would be Noah and T-Mac staying with the Wildcats, given that there was a coaching change and that head coach is the one that recruited them to Arizona. Pat, we'll start with you. What's your biggest U of A sports surprise in the last 10 days?
There's not a number four, all of the above. Now you got to pick one of them. The interesting thing there is, Jason, as they were happening, you would say, well, that's the most, when Jedd Fisch left, that was the biggest surprise, right? And then Dave Heeke, that was a huge surprise yesterday. But then go back to Saturday, and it was a really nice surprise to have the two-star players of the U of A. This is on Friday. This is Video Friday, where we thought, well, maybe they'd give us a hint. They were at a HSL Properties Stuff the Bus campaign for the Community Food Bank of Southern Arizona. We thought that T-Mac and Noah Fafita right then might give us an indication. No, they didn't. They didn't say a word about it. But then to have that video played at the U of A game against UCLA Saturday, and then have them say that they're going to stay, that to me was the biggest surprise. Maybe surprise is the wrong word. That was the most pleasant of the surprises. So that's why I'm going to go with that one. Probably the only pleasant surprise in the group.
So I'm going to go with U of A parting ways with Dave Heeke, right? Fisch hadn't had the contract signed. He had been asked about it. And then the Alabama opening, led the dominoes to go. Right. So that was a pretty big surprise, but really Heeke, to me, the biggest one, just because coaches leave, right? There's a lot of coaching turnover. And here he was just a week ago with Jedd Fisch making his hire. To me, that one is a little bit more surprise. And that's the one where looks like it is a termination as opposed to Jedd Fisch leaving.
Well, without a doubt. Yeah.
And I think that Noah and T-Mac, you will never know, right? But deep inside, I bet they're a little bit peeved at Fisch. Just a hunch on my part, Yep. I think the relationship that they had, what they had going, and for him to leave for a few extra bucks when they reportedly turned down extra bucks to stay, I wouldn't be surprised if they're a little bit peeved. And T-Mac should only have one more year left in college, right?
Right. It's going to go
So,
pro. Right.
so why
Yep.
go to an unknown situation, even if it is Alabama? Why go to an unknown situation, right? When you're here and you're comfortable and you can have a big year to go to the NFL. So, and they were going to go together. Those are best buds from Anaheim. So,
Yeah.
to me,
Couple
the
of
bigger
quick thoughts.
surprise was Heeke.
Yeah, a couple of quick thoughts. Following up on what you said. Number one is that don't discount that HSL Properties visit on Friday. Apparently there was a meeting with Bert Lopez, and who owns HSL Properties, who's a tremendous supporter of U of A athletics. We should have known then was probably going to lead to what we saw, but who had the forethought of that? Then I would also say that, you mentioned with Dave Heeke, it's a rare time that you get to search quickly and find your new replacement, and that's your replacement, and then you're out a couple of days later. It's just unheard of. And I wonder if, I wonder what the sequence of events that led up to that are, and maybe we'll never know, Jason. We just may never know because Dr. Robbins isn't speaking right now. Dave Heeke's not speaking right now. And Mike Candrea isn't even in town right now. So
He's in the country. So
yeah.
there's Brent Brennan. And to me, Brent Brennan is already 1-0 for the players that he kept. It's interesting. You asked him, what's your plan? How are you going to re-recruit the players? And he was very non-pushy. It's just, I guess it's kind of what you said to me in the newsroom. There's more than a couple ways to do this.
Yeah.
I looked like he really took a step back. I was like, I just want to get to know them. I want them to get to know me. I don't think he was like, stay. I think he just, came across as himself. And if there's one thing Brent Brennan is, he is a very likable guy.
Yeah.
Okay?
And I think
he's very likable.
And I use that old phrase about skinning a cat. It's an old phrase, sorry. And that's the way you can do it the Jed Fish way. And Jed Fish, nobody ever said Jed Fish wasn't genuine. That's Jed Fish, right? We saw what Jed Fish did, and we understood how he went about things. And we see how Brent Brennan now goes about things. They're completely different. But if you get to the same result, and that is a competitive football team with a chance to win, that's all you can ask, right? And these players must like what they hear from them because they're staying, and it's quite a few of them that are staying. There are a couple of defections, we know.
Jonah Coleman, you weren't going to keep. He's got a relationship with a running backs coach. The 4-star incoming quarterback was totally with Fish. That one was nearly impossible to keep.
Sure.
Same with the other recruiters from the Seattle area. The one guy I'm looking at now, and I need to double check where he is Raymond Polita, the offensive lineman who entered the transfer portal.
Right. They were talking like maybe he would come.
He's a guy Fish flipped from Alabama.
Yeah. Right. And maybe maybe he's one of those guys that I'm going to the transfer portal, just see what's out there. But, I don't really want to do this. I don't want to transfer again. So it could be that he comes back, and that would be a heck of an offensive line again for the Wildcats. Yes, Jordan Morgan is a big loss. There's no question. But when you have
a fifth-year senior,
yes, but
Savanea is coming back,
right, and that's the key. He's the key, and you'll get spring ball with this new offensive line. You'll get all the practices with that. You have practices come August, and by the time they get ready for the first Big 12 action, they should have a line pretty well in place.
Yeah, I'm looking up Raymond Polita right now. I don't see anything.
Yeah, I hadn't seen anything new today for sure.
Anything new.
Yeah.
But you definitely want him back. And as far as the running back, that room's going to change a lot. Speedy Luke is somebody who I don't think they utilized enough last year because he's the type of guy you can put in the slot. You can put out receiver. He's obviously extremely fast, hence the nickname. I don't know that he's an every down back. It really would have been nice to have him and Jonah Coleman, the bruiser, with the speedster. Yeah. I think that would have been a lot of fun next year, and I was looking forward to that. There is a San Jose State running back who is hitting the transfer portal. It's possible he might join Brennan here. Brennan had a lot of fifth-year, sixth-year even seniors. I think the quarterback he had last year was a sixth-year player, and I think his top wide receiver was a sixth-year guy, if I'm not mistaken, too. But the running back, I think, has a year left. So we'll see.
Wally Wildcat had a comment here, and it's about what surprised him most, and he said, "Coach leaving surprised me just because of all the promises," and with all the exclamation points there. And that I think that was a sentiment of a lot of Wildcat fans. Is he made the appearance on Jim Rome, and he said, "Oh, we're just basically a little semantics, a little figuring on this new contract, and we'll be there, and we'll get to that point. And so I think people feel betrayed, Jason. I think they think he broke his word.
The Washington AD actually took the heat off Fish, because Fish was asked that question in his introductory news conference, and the way he skirted around it, right? He dodged it a little bit in a fine way. He said, "Listen, right now the Big Ten and the SEC are leading the pathways of college football, and this is a Big Ten school." The AD jumped in, and I really liked what the Washington AD said. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, if yes, 857 Tucson. That was cool to see the Wildcats that did stay in Tucson. But what the Washington AD said was, if Fish wants to leave here, that's on us. Washington should be an aspirational place. We should make it that. That's on me, and that's on the president of the university. If a coach here doesn't want to stay, it's our job to make it appealing enough that they stay. And he said earlier in the news conference, we wanted to make sure that check got signed, as far as the money they gave him. So I thought that was an interesting response. I thought that was a good response by the AD, taking the heat off Fish. And then he said, well, if he goes to the Seahawks in a couple of years, there's nothing we can do about that. That's fine. But I thought that was interesting, for him to take
and that gets back to you and I,
which Kalen DeBoer did not take. He went to Alabama.
Yeah, it gets back to our conversation last week on the Huddle, and that was about what Jedd Fish's ultimate goals were. We thought it was the NFL, and within a year he might have been in the NFL if he stayed one more year.
That Eagles job, boy.
It might be that this time next year we'd be talking about, well, there goes Jedd Fish off to the Eagles, to the NFL, and good luck to him, and then you look for a replacement. But he's got a different timetable, and he's got a different track than we thought. So.
All right. So one more point on the AD, and then we'll touch on Arizona basketball a little bit. Mike Candrea is the interim AD. To me, he is not a candidate or somebody who wants to be the AD. I think maybe that's part of the reason he's actually even in there. He was retired, okay, at the end of the 21 softball season. For people who don't know, Mike Candrea was going to retire at the end of 2020, right? 4 years ago. He only stayed one more year because of COVID, and he promised those seniors who got another year, he would be with them for their whole time here. So he was actually fulfilling a promise. But Mike Candrea had planned to retire after 2020. He's 4 years from retirement, and this is not his trade either. He doesn't want to be involved.
No.
There are people, I think I heard a rumbling, because when Greg Bird left for Alabama, the previous AD, Erica Hansen-Barnes, was the interim AD, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, and she's not this time around. Right. There's a couple of associate athletic directors who could have gotten it. So interesting that they go with Candrea. I don't see him as a candidate. I do think they'll make him available to the media when he gets in town about what he sees his role is here. But that's not somebody who, at this stage of career and life, he's been an advisor and he's got an office. I don't think he wants to work every single day.
No, this is just a move of convenience is really what it is you've got a legendary coach who knows the ins and outs of the University of Arizona athletic department, and he'll be fine at just babysitting that position while they look for a replacement. But I think the real message to me is, maybe they're not done in the athletic department with whose fault is it that they're, in some reports, $31 million they had to borrow from the university last year, and they may end up borrowing $30 million more in order to break even this year. I think that there are a lot of questions to be answered, and we'll learn more, as I mentioned, with the report reportedly coming out Thursday at the Board of Regents meeting. Maybe they just wanted to make sure that none of the athletic directors and associate athletic directors and things were even anywhere near this when this report comes out. That's purely my speculation, Jason.
Jason Barr, Pat Parris here on the Huddle. We've got a new poll this year. This is week one of it. You see it up there. You can make a comment here in the comments if you're watching live. If not, or if you just want to anyway, you can go to kidgun9.com and on the polling part of the website, you can put in who you think is the biggest U of A sports surprise in the last 10 days. All right, Pat, we haven't spent a few minutes on Arizona basketball the last couple of weeks just because everything's been so busy. I'm just going to give you a general take, and you can kind of take it from there. Tommy Lloyd made a comment. He thought it was an average team after their fourth loss. They've come back with a couple of wins. They're ninth in the country. They are the best team in this part of the country. So it looks like as of now, they would get a 2 seed in the West. But Pat, there's holes. Again, the same issue of the 3-point defense. is another issue that's just kind of been lingering, and they're not always passing the eye test. Umar Ballo doesn't always. He's been a little inconsistent. Kylan Boswell's been inconsistent. Kayla Love's shot has been inconsistent. Pella Larson even at times has been inconsistent. I guess that's why the team's been inconsistent. Your thoughts on where you think this team is right now, which doesn't have to be where it is in a couple of months, but where it is right now as we sit here on January 23rd.
Well, and I think that's the key, Jason, and I think that's been Tommy Lloyd's thoughts all along too. Is we got so excited with the start, the win over Duke, and they even played Purdue. At least they stayed in the same building with them. That loss to Florida Atlantic should have been our clue that things were not quite right with this team, and they needed to work on things. And those losses, those road losses, especially that Washington State one, really exposed some things. But I think what gave me a lot of encouragement was the way they responded against UCLA. Their defense was not good.
They're down 19, and they're not winning that game if it's not a McHale Center.
Well, it might be true, but here's the thing. Those were the same games that they were down on the road. They came back. McHale Center helped. There's no question about that. But also going through it and proving to yourselves as a team that you can overcome a deficit. You don't want to get down 19. You're probably not winning a game when you're down 19 on the road, but you might get down 10 or 12 on the road. This gives you that opportunity to, take a learning experience of this time we actually did it. Those other two times when you got down on the road in the Pac-12, you just kind of tanked, not willfully. It just kind of happens. It's human nature. In this case, they just kind of chipped away. There wasn't that big run that necessarily got them over the hump. It took them a couple of runs to get back, and then they dropped back again. Then they made another run after they got behind big in the start of the second half, and then they finally were able to get the lead and then seal the deal with a lot of free throws, which was great to see from Umar Ballo. Talk about your level of surprise in the last 2 weeks. The surprise that Umar Ballo made 9 to 10 free throws is just as big a surprise as anything else. But I think it just gives me hope and encouragement that this team has found a way. They haven't had any games like that where they found a way yet, Jason. The Duke game, they found a way sort of, but they had the lead a lot of times during that game.
Early on against Michigan State and Palm Springs. The three bench players should be producing more.
And I think Tommy hit it on the head. He's got to get a couple of those guys a little bit more minutes. Mo Krivas needs to play a little bit more and be more impactful. You mentioned the guys' struggles. They've got to become more consistent, and that has to happen by March, or they're not going to go deep in the postseason.
Yeah. Pac-12, only ranked team in the Pac-12. Is that right?
They're the only ranked team in the Pac-12, and they're only team that's even coming close because Oregon just lost a couple of games in a row. They were close to being ranked because they were undefeated in the conference, but they've lost 2 games now in the conference. So,
I don't think Gonzaga's having a great season either.
They're not. They dropped out of the top 25 for a time. I believe they're still not.
So they're easily the best team in the West. Yep. So they should get a spot in the West, which means
and keep this in mind. If they start playing, and maybe if they could win these 2 games against the Oregon schools on the road, those actually are, I believe, tier 2 wins. Because you know how they do tier 1 is like top 25 at home, top 50 or top 35 on the road. Tier 2 wins, it's like top 50 at home, top whatever on the road. So you follow me. You get bonus points in the net ranking for the NCAA. Right now, they're sitting 3 in the country in the net rankings. And if they can maintain that and maybe move up in the polls and get back to 5, 6 in the polls by the time we get around to the tournament time, they'll get a 1 seed because the tournament selection committee looks at that net ranking. If they're sitting 3, then there's a good chance that they get.
It's tough for them to run the table the rest of the way. They pretty much have to do that. And there's nothing wrong with the 2 seed, at the end of the day.
No, I totally agree. I'm just saying don't count out the 1 seed out west because that's not completely out of possibility with a net ranking of number 3 right now, despite a couple of bad losses.
Yeah. All right, Pat. What a crazy time. I mean, people are throwing out the Baylor AD as a possible replacement for just to
Yeah,
wrap it
Mac
up.
Rhodes.
You started, Baylor's a private school. I don't think they've got some of the issues he does. If he's got family here, that's one thing. They'll be able to find somebody good. He came from Central Michigan.
Mhm.
They'll find somebody good. But to me, as we finish it up here on the poll, that to me was the biggest surprise of Heeke, the Wildcats parting ways with him. So,
Yeah. Well, I think
one day
he will
Brennan's
be.
going to look back at it and be like, "Yeah, my first week here. The
Yeah.
the next thing I know, but he's no stranger to this place, though."
Yeah, the guy who hired me is not even here anymore. Well, I think they're going to have to find somebody, Jason, who has a background with finances too. I mean, somebody
Interesting.
who's proven track record of running a program that can find a way to at
Yep.
least break even, and that's what they need.
Yeah, but it's been a tough deal with the COVID and the loan and all the
I read a
forced
story.
facility upgrades that they feel like
Yeah,
they have to keep up with the
that's it.
Joneses.
You got to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
Here's what I read. I read something. And this was a few years ago article, but I think it's probably similar to this right now. Only about 25 schools in Division One are able to break even or make a little money. In other words, athletic departments look at football and men's basketball and say, you've got to make all the money so you can help with with the rest of the teams, right? You've got to pay for the budgets of the rest of the teams to break even. And right now, there's only about 25 schools in the country that do that. And I believe that something like, 16 of those 25 teams are in the Big Ten and the SEC.
Hmm. Well,
So,
they need to change their ways then,
yeah.
because it's not like a professional team that can gain value as a team. So even if you're losing a little bit in one area, the
Yeah.
value of the
Well,
franchise is
TV
more.
revenue helps a lot. And we were talking about Big Ten and SEC. They have the biggest payout yearly for their teams. That helps.
All right. For Pat Parris, I'm Jason Barr. This has been the Huddle, the first Huddle with a poll question. We hope you vote and see. There's another vote going on today. We hope you vote and see what you think. And maybe, I don't know how this is going to work. Maybe we put the winner, how it turned out next week when we
Yeah, we can do that.
unveil next week's poll. We'll
Yep.
figure it all out. Anyway, thanks everybody so much for watching live and then on the replay on OTT. For Pat Parris, I'm Jason Barr. This has been the Huddle, KGUN 9 streaming weekly sports talk show. We'll see you right back here next week.